Good morning. My name is Steve Kripe, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to all of you. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community. We encourage religious freedom, nurture individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrate diversity, and promote contributing to a just and sustainable world. If you'd like to learn more about the fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org.
And Wendell for all that they did yesterday to continue the upgrade of the Learning Center next door. Also, if you have helped clean up the Learning Center over the past few months, please see Linda Becker so she can add your name to her list of volunteers. Then join the Radical Readers on Tuesday, that's the day after tomorrow, for a discussion about Octavia Butler's Parable of the Talents. So you still have time to purchase that book or go to the library. Our conversation about the destruction of society and its reconstruction and the roles of philosophy and religion should be fascinating. So please join us at 7 o'clock on Tuesday here at UUFE. And Karen Pipe reminds me that there's one more week to contribute to the blessing basket. It's there on the Ivy Island. But if you miss it, it's an ongoing effort, so you can add things for the next round of contributions. And Katrina has volunteered to edit the Focus starting next month. So far, her deadline for committee and other news will still be the 25th of most months. So thank you in advance, Katrina, but I don't see it right now. Last week's attendance was 64 adults and young people in person, on Zoom, and on YouTube. And our collection for the Boys and Girls, or to be shared with the Boys and Girls Club, is $133. Thank you.
I'm going to introduce Reverend Beth right now, and she'll have some opening words before we do our goal. So as some of you know, Reverend Beth Lefever is not a stranger. She was a member back in the days when she was minister, and went to seminary, went to Meadville Lombard, and we coming out here, and went to Meadville Lombard, and was ordained here in October 2012. I think I have is the right date. And I know that there was even at least one couple that before she was ordained and became a minister, even asked her to do their wedding, which she said, I'm sorry to do yet, but my wife Karen and I still ask the minister who did officiate our wedding to allow Beth to participate. So that was in 2006. And since 2012, besides, I think you had an internship at a church, but since then she's been the minister at the Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church outside of Memphis, Tennessee. So I just want to welcome Beth, and she's going to give us some opening words before we do the call. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Chuck. Our opening words are by the Reverend J. Lynn James. We find our way in the dark using light from the lives of others. Their sufferings and celebrations are like constellations in the midnight sky, orienting patterns above the horizons. Tracing their paths through the night, we connect our stories to one another. Circling together, we turn toward morning. Let us now turn toward morning as we gather together in worship.
We ring the gong 3 times. Once for those who came before us and made a place for us. Once for those who are here now. And once for those who come after us and who will build on the dream. This is why we light a friendship candle first, but if you forget. Our chalice lighting is by the Reverend Annie Foster. Come we now out of the darkness of our unknowing and the dusk of our dreaming. Come we now from far places. Come we now into the twilight of our awakening and the reflection of our gathering. Come we now all together. We bring unilluminated our dark caves of doubting. We seek, unbedazzled, the clear light of understanding. May the sparks of our joining kindle our resolve, brighten our spirits, reflect our love, and unshadow our days. Come we now enter the dawning. Please join me as we recite our unison covenant, which is printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another, this is our covenant. And Mike, I think Mike has morning music for us.
Judy and I were thinking the other day that we were saying worship and arts, and we've heard a lot of people say worship arts. In the old days, we actually would have an easel set up for someone to display a painting or a photograph that they liked, or put a sculpture on a plinth, and that was a nice part of the service. They weren't for sale, but they would be taken back home. And we had a very big arts group in the church at one time. I remember one art show we had where all the chairs were gone, and we had this room stuffed with paintings and sculptures and other things that were for, some of them were for sale, and at Ooey Gooey we'd also have things for sale. One that I picked up years ago. This is by Janny Roof, and it was very nice. to get. It's of Island Park. It says number 2. I don't know if that was her 2 in a series of the same thing or her second try. So. Then years ago, I managed to get this one from Don Hirschberger, and I really liked it, and I was very, very pleased to like that. So, very, very nice. It's been on a wall in our house for many years now. One of the first ones we had that we purchased was, I think, at an art show here, and it's by an artist in the room, Caroline Anderson, one of her watercolors. So it's very nice. We bought 2 at the same time. We don't know I think it's by Caroline. Judith says it's by someone else, so I decided let's not get into that. We also had photographs that were displayed from time to time. Moxie brought in one of snow on branches with a blue, against a bright blue sky, with a little wintry sun showing up. I offered to buy it. She said no, and I've asked several times over the years since, about 30 now, and she's always said no. But she allowed me to take a photograph that first time, and I had had a course from Francisco in acrylics. So I came up with my own painting. I won't say it's great, but it's upside down. Well, yes, it is. So it is. Okay. Okay. This is part of my research field, that we deal with tree-ordered things that look like roots. So, okay. So, okay, Cara, if you go to the well field, you'll see a little owl that she had. She offered to make rosin copies of that owl to various. I think she made, about 3 sold, and I didn't bring it along because of the one that she actually allowed me to go up to her house, and we actually poured into the mold, and then we had to sand it down and paint it. And unfortunately, I need to make a better stand for it because it bends over. But so, if I put it here, it would flop. So, okay. So, but that started my interest in carving. And in 2005, I was on a sabbatical at the University of Denver, and I walked by their library, and they had this rose window. And so I took a photo, and I carved this. And I can't carve that much anymore. I have too much arthritis in my fingers, but it was sort of fun to do at the time. We also have one by Kevin Gross, if you remember him years ago, that he would do a computer generated art based on the Mandelbrot set. And this is why artists shouldn't offer their art at Ooey Gooey, because you put it up, no bids. No bids. So I finally offered a bid. I thought would start the bidding, and I got it. He was a little offended at the price, and but that's the way it goes. So far as other art, well, the chalice in the window I carved for one, cut out, scroll sawed, just as a backdrop for one of the art shows that we had here. And the name tag tree is also when I was trying to work with scrolling. So, but it'd be nice to have a thriving art group here again. So I'll come up and pick these up later. Oh, we get to them, one last thing. Always try to leave them laughing. I suddenly realized a couple days ago I don't have anything by William Becker. So I talked to him yesterday, and we're going to go up to his house and look over what he has. I came home and I told Judy, I'm going to get something by William Becker, and she said a 4-letter word. Mike!
Most Sundays, we take up an offering that is shared and supports a local agency. But on first Sundays, we take up an offering to support ourselves, but to support more or less emergency or very necessary repairs. And that goes into what we call the UUFE Sustainability Fund. So we can begin the offering now, please.
the kitchen, 40-watt appliance bulbs in the oven hood, 25-watt bulbs shaped like candles in the dining room chandelier, standard 60-watt bulbs in the lamps in the living room, the phosphorescent glow of the television set in the den. I never questioned the need for all this light, since the dangerousness of the dark was more apparent to me inside the house than out. After one or the other of my parents had kissed me goodnight and turned off the light by my bed, once the smell of my parents had faded away along with their footsteps, once I could feel their protection dissipate as they moved away from me, once it became apparent to me that they had checked me off their list for the night and had turned their attention to other things, then all the loose darkness in that room started to collect in the closet and under the bed, pulling itself together with such magnetic malevolence that I could not keep my mind away from it. You would have to ask an anthropologist how well this childhood history matches the history of the human race. But when I look around the world today, it seems clear that eliminating darkness is pretty high on the human agenda. Not just physical darkness, but also psychological, emotional, relational, and spiritual darkness. Here ends the first part of my reading. I know that I have spent half of my life as a priest in the Episcopal Church. I was ordained in my early 30s and served a couple of churches until I was close to 50. Then I decided to leave parish ministry for a whole host of reasons, including my loss of faith in the institution I was serving. By writing a book about that experience, I discovered a number of things about my Christian tradition that had not been apparent to me while I was busy upholding it. Chief among these is the way Christian teachings thrive on dividing reality into opposed pairs: good/evil, church/world, spirit/flesh, sacred/profane, light/dark. In every case, the language of opposition works by placing half of reality closer to God and the other half farther away. This not only simplifies life for people who do not want to spend a lot of time thinking about whether the divisions really hold, it also offers them a strong sense of purpose by giving them daily battles to engage in. The more they win out over the world of the flesh, the better. The more they beat back the powers of darkness, the closer they get to God. After years of using this language to pray, teach, preach, and celebrate the sacraments, I fell out of love with it. Not just the words themselves, but also the vision of reality they represent. Even after I found a church that affirms the goodness of creation as much as any I know, Sunday worship still turned on the axis of blood sacrifice, which made the death of the body the way of eternal life. After I became ordained, I led the congregation in achingly beautiful prayers, thanking God for the gifts of the earth, the church, and the Spirit, but also asking God to deliver us from the deceits of the world, the flesh, and the devil. It was not until later, after I had resigned from saying these words on a regular basis, that they began to sound lame. Their explanation for what was wrong with me was no longer a relief, but an ongoing source of injury. Their description of divine reality no longer struck with the force of revelation, but resounded with the clang of a truth claim that bore closer inspection. Saying them over and over again in a sacred place, it had been possible to overlook the way they divided people in two, teaching us over and over again that we had two minds, two natures, two sets of loyalties, two homes, and that only one was close to God. Too much of this can make a person crazy. So it is hard these days to imagine a world without artificial light. It's hard to imagine even being able to carve out a few moments in today's world in which a fairly complete darkness can be achieved. A few moments during which one can sit utterly still and let the night wash in unencumbered by light. To sit wholly in darkness for a moment, all other senses awakened and awash in the sounds and scents at the forefront of a light, abandoned piece of time. Author Wendell Berry tells us in his short poem that to go into the dark with a light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight and find that the dark too blooms and sings and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings. Go dark and find that the dark too blooms and sings. That one phrase has captured my imagination as darkness in all of its manifestations has captured my heart. This is not to say that I feel fully comfortable and at ease in the darkness, but rather that I am drawn to darkness, its mystery mostly, its refusal to take seriously the human drive to see all, know all, and anthropocentrically define all, its impersonal defiance of easy answers. Wendell Berry tells us to do what Barbara Brown Taylor found she had to do as she discovered that the religion to which she had committed her life was no longer working for her. It was not enough for her to go in the dark with a light, which is in itself far more than many faiths abide. Taylor had to go dark in order to explore the dark, experience the dark, come to know the dark, and even, I might say, make friends with darkness. She had to leave a one-sided theology of light in order to discover a fuller experience of the world and her place in it. She has done so far more intentionally than I can even pretend to have done, and her book, Learning to Walk in the Dark, is a beautiful testament to what she learned and experienced in her exploration of darkness. And as an aside, let me tell you that this book is not the one in which she discusses the reasons she left the Episcopalian priesthood. That book is entitled Leaving Church, a Memoir of Faith. That is also a good read. But this book, delving into the darkness of life, spoke to me far more deeply, probably because darkness has always spoken deeply to me. And here it would probably be good to define our terms. Darkness, of course, can mean the literal absence of light, nighttime sometimes. It also can mean the absence of spiritual light, which we might call an absence of meaning, or a lack of the sense of something larger than oneself. It can mean the absence of psychological light, which we might call the absence of joy or hope, depression, grief. And there are undoubtedly other meanings we can and do ascribe to the term darkness. For many of the Christian faith, and I'm not going to be talking about this very much this morning, but for many of the Christian faith, darkness often is synonymous with sin and doubt and unworthiness. Consider the words of several hymns. Foul, I to the fountain fly, wash me, Savior, or I die, from the beloved rock of ages. Foul, I to the fountain fly. And then from Isaac Watts' hymn At the Cross, this phrase, would he devote that sacred head for such a worm as I? You. But whatever meaning we consider in discussing darkness, it generally has negative implications. And that's really too bad, isn't it? There's nothing intrinsically evil about darkness. There's nothing ugly about an absence of light, be it literal or figurative. It's all simply a part of this wonderful, glorious, sometimes horrendous experience we call life. And do we really want to hide from it? There's much to savor in the darkness, which I discovered as a very young child, running barefoot through the dew-wet grass under the glow of stars made possible but only by the generosity of the darkened sky. I loved, too, the nighttime symphonies of crickets and cicadas that I never seemed able to hear by day, if in fact they sing during the day, and the gentle nighttime breeze caressing me through an open window after the rigors of a too hot day of play. My love of nighttime came early, and the almost universal fear of what Taylor writes, that fear that compels mothers to call their children in at dusk, was exhilarating rather than oppressive for me, and still is. I like lying on a canvas lounge chair in my backyard late at night, watching the bit of sky I claim as my own, even as I know it is beyond belonging to anything but itself. Watching the stars twinkling or the lovely moon in whatever stage lends it visibility, the occasional plane traveling through. And I love knowing that I might be safer indoors with the shades drawn. I like the tiniest thrill of danger that accompanies my private nighttime soirees into my enclosed backyard because I feel deeply embedded then in the thick of that which lays beyond knowing, and yet of which I am a part. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Whoever you are, some evening, take a step out of your house, which you know so well. Enormous space is near." Enormous space is near, and I want to get close to it. I want to be in it. I am less thrilled and more cautious taking an after-dark walk with the dogs, my two lovely children, for babies, because it is true that darkness can hide danger and criminal intent, even though statistics tell us that more crime occurs during the day than at night. Still, I am cautious and less able to give myself over to the wonders of the night, but even so, it feels good to venture out and feel a part of that great unknown and beyond. And that is the draw for me. It is unknown and beyond. It is mysterious, and it is the mystery that calls to me, which is precisely why I love our faith, and why Barbara Brown Taylor ultimately could no longer embrace her own, if I read her correctly. She writes that theologies that refuse to acknowledge the dual nature of reality reward behaviors, quote, for their unconsciousness, offering spiritual justification for turning away from those things. For God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. That's from 1 John. She further writes that to embrace that teaching and others like it at face value can result in a kind of spirituality that deals with darkness by denying its existence, or at least depriving it of any meaningful attention. I call it, she says, a full solar spirituality, since it focuses on staying in the light of God around the clock, both absorbing and reflecting the sunny side of faith. A full solar spirituality, as she has named it, can be optimistic and joyful until real life problems occur, which bring us down and perhaps even cause us to question our faith. And then, where does such a faith go beyond platitudes and, in worst case scenarios, eventual blame and abandonment? Because the doubt of one can be the threat to all. Taylor found that she needed a more balanced spirituality, citing Albert Camus' plea, "All I want is the moon, Helican. I know in advance what will kill me. I have not yet exhausted all that can make me live. That is why I want the moon." She says that while she truly wanted a solar spirituality, she instead was given a lunar spirituality in which the divine light waxes and wanes with the season. This is a rhythmic spirituality, this lunar spirituality of which she speaks, a spirituality that rises and falls with the earth's rumblings, the earth with which we are one, and yet which we will never fully know, ever. It is a rhythmic spirituality that embraces rather than shuns, ebbs and flows of the natural world and the light and darkness of the human condition. It is an earthy and real spirituality in which the thrill of the mystery, the thrill of not knowing, calls to us far more insistently than the peace of pretending, and forgive me if that offends. The spirituality of mystery, of infinity, of possibility, and of darkness, as well as light, is vivid and real to me, and it is a spirituality in which I thrive. The spirituality that does not turn away from difficult problems, which with pat answers about believing enough or believing rightly, is a spirituality in which I thrive as well, because in refusing to hand up simple answers, and instead supporting us through the darkness of life's inevitable emotional turmoil. We are assisted along and through adventures of growth and into a kind of universal connection and a wider reality. Darkness and light are both equally rich in sustaining parts of life, and the religions that serve us best are those that embrace the fullness of all of life and help us to find meaning in life's experiences. Sometimes the meaning will not and need not go beyond a simple but profound wow. No other explanation needed, just wow. That's the kind of grounded and authentic religion to be found in Taylor's lunar spirituality and in my theology of mystery. Let me close with some final words from Taylor's book. Endarkenment, like enlightenment, is a work in progress. The best thing I can say is that learning to walk in the dark has allowed me to take back my faith, removing it from the glare of the full solar perdition to recover by the light of the moon. Now the sun still comes up, but it also goes down. Blessing the day means accepting my full quota of light and dark, even when I cannot see what I am blessing. Is this dangerous? Perhaps. At this point, I am more afraid of what I might leave out instead of what I might let in. With limited time left on this earth, I want more than the top halves of things. The spirit, but not the faith. The presence, but not the absence. The faith, but not the doubt. This late in life, I want it all. To which I would add, so do I. So do I. May the blessings of light and the grace of darkness abide with us in the coming days, enriching our work, our play, our love, and our meaning making. Amen. The blessed be.